Hey everybody, welcome to Church History for Chumps. My name is John Simon and I am here with the Doctor of Thugonomics, Mr. Thomas Duell. I'm here with, from Parts Unknown, Taylor Treadway, and the man, the myth, and the legend behind Inspiring Philosophy, Michael Jones.
Give it up for Michael Jones, everybody.
Thank you so much. Yeah, this is... I almost wanted to blitz through the other people, the other guys, just to be like, and Michael Jones is here, guys, for Inspiring Philosophy. Yeah, check this out. Yeah, Thomas, whatever, but check this out. Yeah.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, happy to be here.
Of course, man. Yeah. So, Thomas, Taylor, I think you guys should probably, say something to acknowledge,
I'm happy to be here.
We're glad to have you. I've always called you Mike. Do you prefer Michael or Mike? I've never bothered to ask you.
Don't care.
Do you prefer Big Mike?
No.
Did you ever go through that journey where I went through a time when kids called me Johnny for a while, and then I kind of aged into John. Maybe I'll go back to Jonathan when I'm in my 50s. Like, were you ever anything but Mike or Michael?
Not really, no.
Okay. Yeah, keeping it straight.
Hold on.
Get that.
Yeah.
Is your real name Jonathan Simon?
No, it's not.
Oh, dude, I was about to say.
Here's the thing, dude. I'm always open for a good rebranding, and maybe there's a time that Jonathan Simon needs to emerge for the first time ever. I don't know.
No, you can't just add to your name.
Maybe that'll be my grand re-entry back into ministry. Ladies and gentlemen, Pastor Jonathan Simon for the first time.
Give it up, Jonathan Simon.
Yeah.
Okay, right. I have to ask Michael a question. So,
please,
you have there's a billion YouTube videos on the Council of Nicaea, and you have the OG one.
Oh,
how, 'cause it's like a decade old at this point, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It's made you hundreds of millions of dollars.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah, sure, I wish.
So what led that to what led you to start asking those questions that apparently other people weren't asking?
I mean, you just hear so many stupid things online. You eventually have to start combating it. I mean, a lot of that stuff is just sort of known to me early on because I just love to study history. Even as a kid in high school, I just would read history books. So when I started hearing crap about the Council of Nicaea and they're putting the Bible together there, I'm like, wait a minute, I remember that. Let me go check. And it's yeah, they didn't. What are you talking about? So you just hear all these myths about the past, and if you're a history buff, you go, wait a minute, what? So I mean, a lot of that stuff was just I'm hearing the crazy conspiracies for the first time and going, yeah, someone needs to point out this is just stupid because people are actually falling for this.
Okay. So
is that around the time that you started your channel, Mike?
Yeah, about a year before that, give or take. I can't remember exact date, but it was around that time. Yeah, I started at the end of 2011. So
for our listeners who aren't aware, Mike is the host and creator of Inspiring Philosophy, which is a really, really large YouTube. I would call it a ministry. I don't know if that's how you think of it, but it's
we definitely are. We're a registered nonprofit now, so yeah.
Okay. Oh wow.
Cool.
Okay,
Cool.
That's amazing.
He's got really, really good apologetics and philosophical content, as you might surmise from the name, and it's influenced a lot of the public conversation. You can find Mike recently you've been doing a lot of live debating, I've noticed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've been doing some live call-in shows with Muslims, getting them to come in and just try to defend Islam.
Interesting.
It's been going very well. But yeah, it's been that's basically been very successful. We've had a lot of Muslims come in and we've been using something called the Islamic dilemma on them, showing that Islam is false. And then, it's not all of them, but 1 out of every 10, I think, maybe 1 out of every 20 are starting to walk away from Islam.
Wow.
With
that's
that
amazing.
problem. So yeah, it's been really good.
Just, can you give us that in a nutshell? What's the Islamic dilemma?
Yeah. 20 words or less, 50 words or less.
Say that again.
Kind of walk us through in a nutshell the Islamic dilemma, because I know that some people are going to want to know more about that.
Yeah, it's really easy to learn. If you go through the Quran, you assume it says the Bible and the Christian scriptures have been corrupted. It doesn't actually. It says the exact opposite. It says it in like dozens of places that the Quran is there to confirm our scriptures. And that's why we should believe in the Quran. Christians are supposed to judge by the gospel. They're supposed to observe the Torah, the gospel, and whatever has been revealed to them from their Lord. That's Surah 568. So then you just ask a question. Well, wait a minute. The Quran and the Bible contradict. Okay, so if the Bible is the authoritative words of Allah, as the Quran says, then we're supposed to judge by it, then we can use the Bible to judge the Quran as false. But the other horn of the dilemma is if the Bible's been corrupted, then Islam is also false because the Quran is confirming corrupted scripture. So either way, Islam is false.
The classic lose-lose situation.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Do you see the conversation about Islam kind of becoming more and more relevant, especially with all the kind of hot button stuff we're seeing on the news these days? Like, do you feel like this is a conversation that Christians should be engaging more often?
Oh yeah, it's the world's second largest religion. There's billions of people that identify as Muslim, and so most missionaries don't go to the Islamic world because they'll die. So there's this giant mission field out there that has been untapped because of things like apostasy laws and blasphemy laws in Islam. But now we have the internet, and we can start blasting anti-Islamic stuff into the Middle East, Christian content into the Middle East, and we're seeing a lot of fruit from that. Fruit that probably we haven't seen in past generations.
Wow.
I was doing a live on TikTok a couple years ago, and some guy called in, and he's like, "Yeah, I live in Albania. There's no churches nearby me, but your videos helped lead me to Christianity, and now I don't know what to do because there's no churches. Where do I get baptized?" It's a great mission field. You could just pump hundreds of videos into the Islamic world, and I think we're really starting to see the fruits of that now. It's pretty great.
That's amazing. That is really amazing. I think one of the things I've loved about our early church series was realizing that a lot of geographic parts of the world that we tend to assume are like very Muslim, like they've kind of always had this like Islamic flavor to them. Like when you go back to the history of the early church, you're like, oh no, this was like a stronghold of Christianity for a long time. Like Constantinople was huge. Like, Egypt was, some of the oldest churches in the world, even though they're now surrounded by mosques. So, that's super fascinating. That's really, really cool.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's pretty great to finally be getting more stuff into that world. I hope it continues.
So, I'd like to ask you more about
Tommy. Real quick, we should plug everything before we keep diving in, right? So, like, Mike, where can everybody find you?
Oh yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, just Inspiring Philosophies, the handle on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, all the same places. So
he's got a website. You can book Michael.
Yeah, that's true.
He can fly out and just like give a lecture to your kids for you if the price is right.
Do you have any exciting events going on right now that like did you just write a book, or I don't know, are you doing a world tour pretty soon? People can buy tickets for.
No. We're gonna try to do some more mission work outside of the U.S. So there's talk of us going to Croatia to do some anti-Islam stuff. We'll definitely be in London in June to do some anti-Islam stuff there.
Wow.
And so, because, Islam is a bigger problem in Europe and we want to combat it more. So we're going to be doing that stuff over there. And, again, it's very easy to tackle Islam. It's a very easy religion to debunk once you learn a little bit about it. And then, so we're just going to keep pushing that.
Sure.
What is the, do you have to take safety precautions now? Have you ever gotten death threats?
Oh,
for sure. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So
like a daily occurrence.
Yeah. When we're talking about going to Dearborn, not daily though. No.
Okay.
Some of the other anti-Islam guys get it more than I do for sure. But I mean, when we're talking about going to Dearborn, like in April, and we've already talked to people to do security for us there, just as a precaution.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
What's the crossover between Islam and Black Hebrew Israelites?
They both hate each other, the Muslims and those guys.
Oh, do they really? Okay.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah. Black Hebrew Israelites are not pro-Islam in any way possible. They think they are the real Israelites, even though they're not. I mean, anyone with 2 brain cells can see that. And so, you know, they don't really like the Muslims. So the funny thing is like I was talking to God Logic, and he said, yeah, a lot of the black Hebrew Israelites use my anti-Islam arguments on Muslims. I've seen them do it. And so
that's hilarious.
Stealing from the Christian apologists. It's kind of funny.
Oh, man. The enemy of my enemy is sometimes still my enemy.
That's
Yeah.
right. That's right.
That's awesome.
Well, sorry,
Oh,
Tommy.
man.
I cut you off, man. Tommy was going to ask that question.
You're good. I wanted to hear more about kind of the origin of your channel and how it's evolved over the years, but I also wanted to give you the opportunity. I know that you usually play it a little close to the chest with just some of your personal details about your life. I don't know how much you've shared publicly, but just for our listeners who are getting to know you, like, tell us more about yourself. Give us a little bio on Mike Jones, and then maybe kind of lead into how you got going with your channel.
Yeah, I tend to keep my personal life out of this.
Yep, that's fine.
I mean, like when I started on YouTube, it was back in 2011, and I was just rather annoyed at how there was all this anti-Christian content being put out there, and there wasn't a lot of pro-Christian content. And the stuff that was out there was conspiracy theory nuts or young Earth creationism, and I was like, there's got to be something better than just watching a bunch of Christians debate the age of the earth all day. So I started putting out some stuff to try to like add to more intellectual aspects of Christianity.
So that would have been at like the height of kind of secularism, right? Because you've shifted, as you've shared already, your focus is Islam right now. Do you think we've won, so to speak? Like all the arguments are out there for people when it comes to secularism?
I mean, it depends on what you mean. Have we won, like, in terms of, like, collapsing secularism? Well, no, we're still fighting that. But we definitely have a strong intellectual front against them now, and that it is making a lot of great advances. It's just, even people that are atheists are now coming out going, yeah, we need a more Christian society. People like Douglas Murray or Sargon of Akkad, the YouTuber, have said, we do need more Christianity in society. Maybe we were wrong about all this. And so you see people saying that kind of stuff. That is basically showing the fruits of secularism have never played out as people thought they were going to. You know, with Richard Dawkins claiming we'll be in an age of science and reason when we get rid of religion. And that just didn't happen. So, yeah, I think we are definitely making a lot of advances on there. I think secularism itself will destroy it. It destroys itself. Yeah. Because you don't produce the birth rates. Secularists, atheists have to rely on high conversion rates to keep their movement going. And they're already a very small minority. And a lot of their apologists are getting burnt out, is from what I can tell. That's why you see them always start to gravitate into politics. You get these new big atheist bloggers or YouTubers. They go for a couple years, and then they make some leftist political stuff, and then they just start to do that full time because it gets more interaction and engagement. So it's just a reoccurring cycle. But lately, the new faces of atheism have not got the traction that they were getting, like when the new phases showed up 10, 15 years ago.
So, I mean, is the Islam just kind of like your focus right now? Like paint a picture of where the field is, I guess, like where the discussion is. Because you started in 2011. I remember that time period. Like we said, that was like height of secularism. And that's who you started making arguments against. Now, explain the shift and kind of how the plane is landed where it is today.
The main focus of the channel is always defending Christianity and the Bible. That's always been the focus. That's going to continue to be our main focus. Like we're working on a series right now, defending the resurrection and all the evidence for it. We just did a big long series on defending the Gospels. The problem is that when we attack Islam, that gets far more interaction, so people just see more of that stuff. It's kind of an interesting way that kind of works. So, I mean, our main focus is always going to be making high quality videos defending Christianity, and we're still doing that. But we do live streams and shorts attacking Islam, and they're quick. You can hit out. I mean, it doesn't, again, as I said, it doesn't take a lot to debunk Islam. It takes very little research. I wish I was making that up. It's really, really easy to debunk. So you could do that stuff pretty quickly. So we can do a lot more of it. But again, sometimes the more detailed, like hard hitting videos take longer to put together, and then they just get less engagement. But we're going to keep doing it anyway because that's what we feel passionate about the most.
Is there like, I mean, this is probably a really big question. I'm going to try to like frame it in a way that makes it answerable. But like, when you think of like this idea of debunking Islam, like, is that something that your average Muslim is still going to kind of wrestle with and be like, oh, well, you can disprove, like logically you can put these pieces together, but if the average Muslim is not basing their religious faith on their logic, like, I don't know, like what kinds of barriers do you think there are in terms of like really penetrating that like 1 out of 20, 1 out of 10 person that you mentioned is actually going to consider walking away from the faith?
When you deal with Muslims, they're very much, everything is beneath the Quran. Logic, science, reason, you name it. It all is supposed to come after what the Quran says. So there's a great clip of some Muslim imam saying, like, if we find something that contradicts Islam, we turn our brains off. He used the phrase, we turn our brains off. Like, that's
like independent fundamental Baptist kind of.
Yeah, well, we make fun of them. They're a minority in Christianity, and they're not as bad as Muslims are. And the majority are going to be in that mentality, like the traditional Sunni in like the Salafi movement. That's going to be the majority. So it's kind of scary to think about. So what you have to do is you have to attack the Quran. You can start showing problems in the Quran. It starts to get them out of it. And that's why I mentioned the Islamic dilemma earlier. It's very successful in getting them out, because if they're seeing the Quran is confirming the Bible, which contradicts the Quran, it starts to mess with their brain, and they start to go, well, why did Allah not make this more clear? When he said, the funny thing is, like, the Quran claims it's also clear in multiple places. It's kind of funny that it also does that on top of claiming it's confirming our scriptures. So you start to mess with them, you break that down, and boom, that next thing you know, they're starting to question the whole foundation of Islam. You got to break down that barrier before you get through to anything else. You can't even preach the gospel to them until you break down that barrier.
So the Quran itself was written by Muhammad, right? In the 6th.
Oh, there's different theories. So he didn't write anything. He didn't write anything. He was illiterate.
He wasn't literate, right?
Yeah, he was illiterate. He claimed he got these revelations and he spoke them out. His followers memorized them, and then after he died, they wrote them all down. And there's different theories. Like Stephen Shoemaker thinks that it probably took some pre-Islamic traditions. There's probably some truth in that. And then they combined them with what Muhammad was preaching. Some things may have been written down after. They didn't actually go back to the historical Muhammad. It's a whole mess, really, when you get into the critical scholarship surrounding the Quran.
Because my next question was the hadiths, though. What do they do with that? Because I know that those have a lot of. There's a bunch of them, right? And Muslims don't even agree on which hadiths are canon, essentially. Correct me if I'm not phrasing that correctly.
Yeah, well, the majority are going to be Sunni Muslim. You're talking about 85% of Muslims, and they're going to accept the majority of what we know as the Hadith. So there's I think it's 7 collections, and I mean we're talking giant volumes. These are the Quran is not is not Muhammad's speech. Muslims believe the Quran is Allah's speech through Muhammad. The Hadith are the sayings of the Prophet. So that's the difference. And the hadith are all collected in what is called the Sunnah. And these are different collections. You have Sahih al-Bukhari, Sahih Muslim, Sunan Abu Dawud, Sunan Ibn Majah, all these different collections, Sunan Anasai. And then there's a bunch of them which they'll say are Sahih. So I said there's Sahih al-Bukhari. So everything in al-Bukhari is Sahih. There's Sahih Muslim. So everything in Muslim, the Muslim hadith collection, is also Sahih. So Sunni Muslims have to affirm everything that's Sahih. Then there's another grade below that called Hasan, which is good. So some hadith are just Hasan. They're good, but we can't completely and totally verify them. And then below that, they'll say they're weak. And so, yeah, you have different like that. But I mean, the majority, they're going to be very problematic. like the fact that Muhammad married Aisha when she was 6 and consummated the marriage when she was 9. That's in so many Sahih hadith that they can't ignore that. They can't get away from that.
You mentioned this a little bit earlier. I'm curious what your response was. Of course, without sharing any like sensitive information, but yeah, if you get a message from someone who's like, yeah, dude, I'm like shoulder deep in this very Islamic environment, but I am now interested in Christianity, but there's no churches nearby. It's not really safe for me to express that interest. Like, what guidance do you guys offer?
I mean, the first thing we say is you got to get out of that community. Like, if you're out of that, I mean, they will kill you. They have apostasy laws. It's very clear in Sahih al-Bukhari 69:22, 69:30 that if you leave Islam, you should be killed. So we say first you gotta get out of that community. Like, we've heard from ex-Muslims that were like converted in the Middle East, and like then the church like converts them or like helps get them out of the country somewhere safe, because they'll allow the Christian communities to exist in that country, but they can't convert anyone. And if they do, then they're in trouble.
Yeah.
So they'll get them in an underground church, perhaps. They'll get them out of the country. Something like that. And then somewhere safe is what we generally need to happen. So, you know, it's a really rough situation. That's probably why there's more ex-Muslims than we know about. I wouldn't say they're Christian. A lot of them are probably just, you know, not religious at all, but they claim to be Muslim so they don't die. I mean, that's really what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the Islam of the West, I'm guessing, is not your standard fare Islam, you know, where everyone, you know, is a Habibi and they, you know, they eat bacon off to the side when no one's looking. And that's not typical. Like, that's what we see on our day-to-day interactions with Islam, but that's not the vast majority of the world.
Yeah, I mean, so it's different. Like, European Muslims can be a little more radical. American Muslims tend to be the most liberal, from what I have seen. Which is much nicer. A lot of them come over here and they want the American dream. So to get the American dream, they start to secularize. But I mean, there's a lot of radicals trying to change that now, and we're trying to combat that. So, I mean, but then you got to mix. I mean, people don't realize how fractured the Islamic world is. It's not the way they portray it to the outside world. You got Sunnis fighting with Shias, but then in the Sunni community, which is the largest, you have different sects fighting each other. I mean, like, you have like the more like people that would say like, you just keep it religious, that you're going to find like the people ruling the UAE, and they're going to hate people like the Muslim Brotherhood who want to make everything political. And then you have like the 4 major schools in Sunni Islam. You have the Salafi movement. You have the anti-Salafis that are still Sunni but don't like the Salafis. I mean, there's all sorts of fracturing and splintering in Islam. Meanwhile, I think the Christian world is actually becoming more united over the past 100 years. So I think the more Islam exists, the more it's going to splint and fracture. And the funny thing is, like, even in something like the Salafi movement, you have different Salafis who don't like each other. It's wild, man.
Mike, where do like the East Asian Muslims kind of fit into the cultural movement? Because I think I've heard that the largest population of Muslims are actually outside of the Middle East. They're like in places like Malaysia. So like where do they kind of fit in? Indonesia, that's it. Yeah, where do they kind of fit into the global psyche of the religion?
I mean, they're just another wing of it all. You know, like Indonesia is still going to have a lot of the same Sharia law aspects that we're going to despise and hate. I don't know. It's, again, Indonesia is so big and vast and diverse, you can't really just categorize that entire area. It'd be nice, but no, it's a lot of diversity there in terms of belief as well.
Okay.
Dude, I had a youth kid who he was his uncle. They were Malaysian immigrants, and his uncle was killed outside of church by Islamic extremists. Which I didn't even until that moment. I didn't even know. You don't think of like Far East and think of Islam. Do you know how it spread over there, Mike?
Oh, with a sword. I mean, let's be honest.
Oh man.
I mean, Islam spread by the sword. That's how it started. It came out of Arabia in terms of conquest, and early Muslims believed it was their duty and right to conquer the whole world under the banner of Islam. Everything must be subjugated to Islam. The last surah that was revealed is Surah 9. Now, the Quran is not in chronological order, which makes it rather annoying. The last surah revealed was Surah 9. And in that it says, Muhammad is commanded to fight those who do not believe in Allah on the last day, nor comply with his will, or to comply with what Allah and his messenger have forbidden. Okay, that's us, because we're not going to comply with Allah and his messenger. And it says that we have to be fought until we fully submit and pay the jizya. This is a tax that represents our submissive status. And so that's right there in Surah 929. So that's what Muslims shoot out of Arabia to do. They try to conquer. They go as far as they can. And they continue to do that. And of course, over time, they realized they couldn't keep spreading the way they thought they could. So they come up with different tactics. So you send Muslims into like an area like Britain, and you let them set up little satellite communities, and then they start growing through birth rates. And over a couple generations, they start to become a clear, strong minority. And then they start demanding more stuff. We want to blast the Muslim prayer every morning. We want to force hijabs in this area. We want to, have our own ways and our own courts set up in this area, like Sharia law courts. And then they start, and then when they get enough power, then a conquest begins. This is in the Muslim scholar Ibn Kathir, who, one of the most revered scholars in the Islamic world, is saying this is basically the strategy. When you're weak, you make treaties, you deal, but when you're the majority and you're strong, you fight and you conquer.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm interested in hearing your thoughts on a little bit more broader scene, but very similar. So John and I live in Arizona, and so we engage with Mormons really frequently, and we see. I feel like there's a lot of similarities between Mormonism and Islam, with the obvious differences, but their origin story seems really similar. What you were saying about needing to kind of attack the source documents seems similar, but I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on the similarities in those two groups, but also the similarities in the apologetic approach, if there is a similarity. Because at this stage, I'm engaging with way more Mormons than I am Muslims.
Oh yeah, for sure. There are similarities. There's a book called The American Muhammad, which is about Joseph Smith.
Wow.
I mean, they have similar origin stories. They claimed an angel spoke to them and told them that, they need to fix the world religions because they've become corrupt. And so they're going to go around and do that. I think Joseph Smith actually claims the scriptures were corrupted, even though Muhammad didn't. So there's that. But I mean, very similar things. You have some alleged prophet claiming he's got to fix the world religions because an angel told him. And now he has to have multiple wives. He has to have a child bride. It's very, very similar in terms of it. I mean, one of the best ways to do that. I mean, the way the movements began is similar, but the way they then progressed changes. Mormons were persecuted. I often wonder if, like, the Mormons had got more power, would they have been more in, like, the conquest mode? I wonder about that sometimes. I mean, there's no way to prove it, but given the similarities of how it's, the similarities with how it starts in terms of with Islam, you kind of have to wonder sometimes if they would have. So different entirely in terms of that. I mean, the way I would attack Islam is different than how I would attack Mormonism. And that's because Mormons don't have the same mentality that Muslims do, where like the Book of Mormon is the end all be all. They've definitely been watered down over the century and a half they've been around. Well, probably 2 centuries now, because of how much they've been attacked. I mean, like the whole debacle over the Book of Abraham and the Pearl of Great Price has really been hard on them. So the best thing to do with them is just go to the Bible and show that the Bible doesn't teach Mormonism, teaches Christianity. I did this in Tucson recently. There were Mormons at a big festival back in October. I just went up and started talking to them, and I'm like, you guys believe that Elohim or El is the Father, and you believe Yahweh is the Son. But here's a verse in Numbers where it clearly says El is Yahweh. And here's a verse in Genesis 19 where it says there's two Yahwehs. So are there two sons? So you do that kind of stuff. You start to show them the problems. And I found success in that area with Mormons, but I tend to deal more with Muslims online. They tend to be more of loud, to put it nicely.
Yeah.
I think one of the interesting things about both Islam and Mormonism is just how they really do. It's a religion. I mean, and we would say this too for Christianity, that it's all encompassing. It takes over your life. It takes over your community. Like, and that's a benefit. Like that's living that's a piece of everlasting life. But one of the things that I've wrestled with when talking to Muslims or with Mormons is like, it's such a high task for them to even consider challenging the presuppositions that they've just built their entire life around. Like, this would be losing family, losing community, but also just kind of losing a framework that they've been taught to operate out of their entire lives. Like, that is the roots run so deep for them.
Absolutely. And this is why, Western society spreading its culture around the world has actually been very impactful in damaging Islam. Because when there's Western culture available, ex-Muslims have a place to go to. They can find new communities, especially in churches. It's been very helpful. But, that has been very helpful in tearing that kind of stuff down. You have to remember also, the reason most people joined Islam was because you get to join, conquest, plundering, amassing wealth and slaves. That's generally how Islam spread for its first 1,300 years or so. There were many times when Muslims would take over regions, they didn't let Christians or Jews or Zoroastrians convert because they wanted to keep them subjugated and beneath. If they had too many Muslims, who are they going to tax? This happened, for example, in the Umayyad Caliphate a couple times. So you have those issues happening throughout the Islamic world, where it's all about conquest. Right now, think about where the Muslim world is. They don't have a caliphate. They're divided. They're fracturing. They don't have wealth. What are the reasons, the pragmatic reasons to be a Muslim? If you don't really believe in all this stuff, and there's so many intellectual problems, what's the reason to stay in Islam? I mean, what are the benefits? You see, the Western world gets to listen to music, drink alcohol, enjoy pork, enjoy moderate clothing without having to dress like a tent all day. It looks a lot more appealing, I'd say. I mean, who wants to dress like a 7th century Arabian, even if you're a man? It's kind of weird. I mean, Muslims are taught you need to like emulate the Prophet in every way. The way he dressed, the way he looked, the way he walked. You have Muslims doing tutorials and videos showing you how to walk like the Prophet. Like, you should get your cadence down and stuff like that. Wow. And eventually you just kind of go, I don't want to live like that. This is ridiculous. And so, the more Western civilization is on top, the more Muslims will leave Islam. Because, again, you combine the intellectual problems with the truth of Islam, with the practical problems. There's no reason to stay a Muslim. If the Muslim world ever got power again and they started conquesting, you'd see more people come into Islam, because that's their main motivating factor. They got people to come into Islam in the past, was bringing them in to help conquer and subjugate.
What's interesting is, you say what's the reason? I think the main reason they have is only for the community. At this point, I talked with for a while. I had a friend at the seminary. He got a different position and moved across the country, but he was from Egypt, and he was Protestant from Egypt. And he told me, I mean, it's very much like in that part of the world, like, you are born into something. You were born a Christian, so you are a Christian. You are born into something, and like, it stays that way. You don't marry outside your community. A lot of times you rarely do business outside. If you own a business, you don't hire outside your community. And so it's a very like, your community is your community, and there's nothing you can do to change that. And
exactly,
so it's like a trap for the Muslims.
Oh, it is. Yeah, that's why a lot of them stay. Is they need the community and family, because if they leave, they'll not only be excommunicated, their lives will be threatened. We've seen this so many times. So it's just easier to stay, go through the motions, and that's what happens to a lot of them when they come to the West. They sort of just stay and go through the motions. But a couple generations later, I mean, it's not going to be the same. Because, like, let's say you're a nominal Muslim. You're growing up in Britain. You want to go to college. You also want to please your family, so you're not going to drink alcohol, in front of them. You're not going to eat pork. You're going to keep claiming you're a Muslim. But you're not going to raise your kids to be super strict adherents of the faith. And then their kids are not going to as well. I mean, the same thing can happen in Christianity. It has. And that's why we're trying to combat it and deal with that. But that is an issue. We could say in Christianity what we have is very, very different than what Islam has. A completely different system. The Muslim world is built on being a thriving, conquering community. The Quran says the Muslims are the best people that Allah has raised up. Jews and Christians are the worst of creatures. If Muslims are not superior, there's something wrong. Christianity is the opposite. We're told by Jesus we're going to be persecuted and hated. If we're not being persecuted and hated, something in the general Christian mindset feels often wrong, actually. We thrive in persecutions and sufferings. Historically, that's what has happened. So when Christianity starts to decline, these built-in mechanisms of the religion take over, and we start to produce more apologists and evangelists and people defending the faith. And then we get ourselves back up in a majority or back up in authority. And then we feel off, and then corruption happens, and then the cycle repeats. So this kind of stuff happens. Islam is the exact opposite. It's not meant to be a religion that is ever supposed to be not superior, on top, dominating, conquering, subjugating. The past 100 years have been very, very hard for the Muslim collective psyche, because their caliphate is gone. They're not conquering. They're told in their earlier sources, like the Quran and the Hadith, this is what they're supposed to be doing, and they're not. So it's starting to get to them. It's starting to bother them. And that's why we're seeing resurgence of people in the Muslim world say, we need to get super religious, super traditional, and then Allah will start blessing us again. And it ain't happening. So I don't know what they're going to do.
That is really interesting. I don't think I've ever heard that observation before, that the reason you have a lot of Muslims either watering down their approach to faith, leaving it all together, or becoming mega radical is because of they're having kind of an identity crisis, like as a collective, which is really, really fascinating. I have a question. I love all of this talk on Islam. I want to ask a question about just like broader apologetics too. So we mentioned a little bit, kind of talking about the kind of Richard Dawkins spot in the his 15 years of fame or whatever. Like, when I think about apologetics, like I feel like conversations I've had with non-believers from like when I was in high school 15 years ago to now have really shifted in tone. Do you feel, as like someone who's been running the apologetics game for a long time, do you feel like the itch is starting to change for your average non-Christian secular person? And what does that look like?
What do you mean by itch? Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, it's like maybe just the thing that's most likely to keep them from converting, or the thing that keeps them happily secular, non-religious, etc.
Oh yeah, secularism is collapsing. Let's just go through the history. It's like you have 9/11, you have the new atheists come about, blame everything on religion, and they say, well, if we just get rid of religion, we'll enter an age of science and reason and be so advanced and wonderful, and everyone will be so happy. Well, that didn't happen. What actually happened is that secularism is an ideology for elites, not for your average person. Because
spitting.
That's wow.
Well, think about it. If you are a secular person and you're an elite, let's say you're in media, let's say you're in academia, you have purpose, you have meaning. You're one of the influencers over society. You have power to wield. But if you're like the grocery store clerk, if you're like working at a gas station, what are you living for? Secularism offers hedonism.
Yeah.
Go watch your porn, go play your video games, and then die and just get all the pleasure you can out of life. There's no purpose or meaning offered. So the average person is going to look at that, and they may be excited about it at first, as they were. Yeah, we'll enter this age of science and reason. It'll be great. Everything will be wonderful. And then it doesn't happen. And you see you're being left behind in the society. Society feels like it's advancing. You see all your favorite influencers doing all these cool things, and you're still working at the local gas station or the local Target or the local Starbucks. You got your gender studies degree, and it didn't get you anywhere. You didn't get to become one of them. So you start to go, what's my meaning and purpose? Humans need meaning and purpose. I mean, tell the poorest people of the world, the people who pick trash out of Africa to survive, tell them, hey, you're just a collection of cells, and, give yourself a couple decades, enjoy what you have, and then you'll die in a few years. Or tell them that the creator of the universe became human and died so you can live for eternity with him. Which one do you think is going to give the poorest of the poor more meaning, more purpose, more reason to live and want to do good? That's the problem with secularism. It doesn't offer anything. It doesn't replace what people need. So over the past, 5 years or so, we've seen a lot of young men especially start to embrace traditional Christianity. They're filling up Orthodox, Catholic, Anglican, Lutheran, Presbyterian churches. A lot of them are gravitating
Baptist.
towards the...
Baptist.
Well, why is that? They want ritual. They want tradition.
Yep.
They want to hold to something that's sacred and old, because secularism doesn't have that. And they're being raised by secular parents without anything to really hold on to give them value and meaning. And so that's where they're going. They're trying to find that to cling to. So that's why I'm not too worried about secularism in the long run, because it's just going to destroy itself. People are now being raised by secular parents, Gen Z, Gen Alpha, and they're going, what am I alive for? Just to watch porn and play video games? There's got to be more. And humanity craves that. They crave purpose and meaning. The first cities were built around temples for reasons. Mm-hmm. People want more out of reality than just eating and sleeping and reproducing. And so that's what Christianity offers. It's the best ideology that humanity has ever had in terms of giving purpose and meaning, for creating change, for creating real lasting progress and change in reality. And so that's what people are turning to. And we need to be there to make sure they embrace it, because we don't want the Muslims to come in and do that for us.
Mm-hmm. Well, dude, it's almost like you could say that secularism is going through a similar kind of identity crisis that Islam is going through, where it's realizing that all of the energy they've been putting into all of these false promises are coming up empty. And so on the one hand, you have secular people, or formerly secular people, who are embracing religion and becoming Christ followers, which is a beautiful thing. And then you have others who are like, no, we just need to really put a vice grip on our political views, on our actions, and radicalism, or even like the black pill Gen Z kids who are just like, life is pointless, just indulge as much as you possibly can because there's no value. Like, there's people on the far one area who are going head over heels into really dangerous stuff. And then you've got those who are finally like, maybe this Jesus thing has got some value to it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we need to, this is a time for the church to step up. And if we do, we'll create the fourth great awakening. Mm. I hope it happens, because we need that. The problem is you have New Agers trying to step in and fill that gap. You have Muslims trying to step in and fill that gap. And you have some of the secularists still trying to maintain their grip on their masses. But I think I'm optimistic about the future at this point, as long as we do the hard nitty-gritty work and really just get in there and do it. I think we could really start a new awakening if we start pushing it. And we won't know if we're successful for a good 20 or 30 years. Mm-hmm. So we better get to work now. That's my mentality.
It's a good word. I'm curious about, in your work, I've noticed that you have more of an eye towards church history than other apologetics platforms that I've seen, which is one of the reasons why we felt some kinship with you. You have quite a bit of church history content that's just specifically focused on church history. I think one of my favorites that I saw was you taking on the myth of Sergius and Bacchus being homosexual lovers. Yeah. So I've seen you do that kind of work, but growing up all of the apologetics kind of influencers at the time, really before social media, whether it was the big ones when I was growing up were Sean McDowell and William Lane Craig. And I know that they each have pretty large ministries still, but I've seen those guys, speak live. I've read their material, and I feel like I don't see a whole lot of attention paid towards church history in their content. They do a good job with like the Lane Craig, especially with the philosophical arguments, and Sean McDowell with defending the Gospels, the historicity of the Bible, those sorts of things. But I don't see much attention paid to church history, and I think that part of that is because they are on the very evangelical kind of wing of apologetics. But I'd be just curious to hear your thoughts on the integration of church history in apologetics work.
I mean, it's an essential thing to do. It's necessary. I mean, how can we do apologetics if we don't know our own history? Mm-hmm. Because if you don't know history, you're doomed to repeat it. If you don't know the problems we've already faced and how we've overcome them, we're not going to be equipped to deal with current problems and how to maneuver them. So I think that's a complete and total necessary thing to doing any sort of evangelism or apologetics. We must know where we came from, why we're doing it, how we got here. That's all history. Mm-hmm. So going through church history is very, very important. To give like an example, I mean, like people today will look into, it's so bad, Christianity's declining, we're not going to make it. We're going to be gone in 10 years, the beast is going to rise up and everyone's going to be eating bugs and pods. And hold up. I mean, Christianity survived the Neronian persecution, survived the Diocletian persecution, survived all these persecutions. If any time Christianity was not going to make it, it would have been under Nero, when we were just getting started. There were so few and they were being killed and slaughtered left and right. And we survived. So I think we'll survive today when there are billions of people who call themselves Christian. Just take a step back, think about the context. And that doesn't mean we don't need to worry. We still need a lot of work to do, because our work will not be done until everyone on earth is Christian. Obviously, we don't use coercion or conquest. We use peaceful means. But I mean, like, we're going to keep doing that work. And we can get there much faster if we dive in and do it. And knowing church history, how evangelism has worked in the past, is going to help us to do that in the future.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the historical aspect also, I feel like, is important for the arguments. I know Wes Huff he might be the biggest guy right now that does a lot of historical work. But I love your guys' sweater, by the way. You guys can go order on Inspiring Philosophy. It says Christmas is not pagan, and it's a beautiful Christmas sweater. Awesome. You can order it for next year. I saw Wes Huff's video on that. I mean, and the whole, that argument is a historical argument. And so because people are trying to, taint the tradition. And I think there's a lot of that. History is super, super important. And I hope it becomes more popular. I think things like your view count on your Nicaea video proves that people are asking questions. Because was it Zeitgeist that had said that original lie about, they put together the Bible at Nicaea, and now,
oh man, it was around before that. It was all over the place. I mean, like, it's just a reoccurring myth. It goes back to people like Voltaire. Voltaire was making that argument that, I mean, the Council of Nicaea put together the Bible. Wow. And it was even made before him, for example. It's like, I think it started off as like a joke, but I mean, like, this stuff has been around for a while. Think of things like the idea that, Christianity is anti-science. Like, we've heard this our whole life. Complete nonsense. Like John Hilbron has noted, like, the Catholic Church is probably the one institution that gave the most to the study of astronomy in all of human history. And he's not an apologist for the Catholic Church by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, like, and so, like, you have all these really, really big myths that have just been repeated over time, and people just believe they're true. Because if you keep hearing it from multiple places, your brain just tends to assume it's true. Because, well, why would I, it's the criterion of multiple attestation. If I hear it from this person, that person, well, they're corroborating stories, so they must be true. And so we hear that often. And then when someone like myself comes along and says, no, the Council of Nicaea didn't create the Bible, I'm the odd man out to them, because no, they've heard it from all these other people who they may know and trust more than some loser on the internet. So they're going to go with that. And so it takes a while to combat these myths.
Yeah. And now the workload on you, when you're just the one standing up and sharing the truth, the workload on you is much stronger or much heavier.
Well, think of it like this, though. I mean, like, I started in 2013, 2014. I started telling people Christmas isn't pagan. There's no evidence of it. Every comment was against me. Everyone was saying I was wrong. Christian, non-Christian. Next year I did it. There was like one or two guys going, yeah, actually, no, you might be right about this. Next year a little more. Now, 2026, just the past Christmas season, when I would post stuff, or when anyone would post stuff, the majority of the comments are saying they're wrong. Someone comes and says Christmas is pagan. I can go to the comments and I can see there's at least a strong presence of people saying this is wrong. So we're combating that now. And on my posts, when I make, most people are going, yeah, we know Christmas isn't pagan. So we're making progress. I mean, so you can combat this stuff. It just takes time and effort and showing people the facts over and over again.
Yeah. Mike, what's your take on the kind of the ecosystem of Christian content creation that's happening right now? It seems like there are a lot of cool dudes making a lot of stuff, but there's also, like, I don't know, TikTok has been a big way for folks like yourself, but also a lot of creators to kind of enter this space of talking about Christian ideas, theology, church history. What's your kind of take on
I have a
that?
follow-up question after that.
Yeah, I think it's good. I think we need more of it. I think it's a good start, but I want a lot more Christian content creators, people that just do reaction videos. I think that's a good place for all Christians to start. Just do a reaction video to something and debunk it, put it out there. If more people do that, the really, really good ones are going to rise to the top, and that might be you. So get out there and start doing some work, and you never know. You might be one day at a conference with me speaking. So just start doing that kind of stuff.
Nice.
My follow-up question is, so at ETS, were you at ETS this year?
Yeah, I was walking around, yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe next year I'll say hi. We'll see each other. So one of the things that I noticed was I talked with some of the YouTube community guys, because a bunch of them go to it, which I think is great, which shows that they are very much interested in the academic side, except I don't know if I'm true in this observation. It doesn't seem like they value the formal education as much. And I'm just wondering, is there like a pedagogical shift happening before our eyes where maybe I don't really care if there's an ATS accreditation slapped to this. I don't care about a master's degree because I just have like all information available to me, so I can just do the work on my own.
I really, really hope so. A couple years ago, I may not have said that, but the more I do this stuff, the more I think there's a lot of elitism in academia. There's a lot of like scholars who just like, snub their nose at you with this ivory tower mentality if you don't have a degree.
Right.
And the funny thing is a lot of them will talk about subjects they don't have degrees in, but I mean, you can't talk about any subject if you don't have a degree. It's really kind of a weird double standard they have. But so, I mean, like, I hope that happens. And again, I think we're learning we don't need that stuff. And academia also does a lot of policing of ideas that they don't want in or out. But now the internet we're spreading these ideas more and more and more, and they can't do anything to stop us. So I think this is a good thing in a lot of ways because, we want more of a free market of ideas so the good ones rise to the top. Academia has put a lot of restrictions on that, preventing that from happening. So, I mean, there's a reason Max Planck once said, science advances one funeral at a time. What he meant was there was a really powerful, influential scientist. He'd die. He would push his ideas out and you could never challenge him. But then when he would die, young people could come around and start trying new stuff. And then the cycle repeats. Now it's going to repeat a lot quicker because I could put out a video arguing like the Pentateuch, it predates David. And that is laughed at in academia. It's absolutely laughed at. But there's a lot of evidence that they don't ever deal with that shows the Pentateuch is quite ancient, that it probably is, at least the main core of it predates David and Saul probably. If that's the case, I mean, more and more people will now hear those arguments. They'll get in academia. They'll start pushing them subtly, and eventually, that maybe they'll make a paradigm change. But we need more of that because I could not publish a paper for SPL, for example, on why I think the Pentateuch is pre-David, even if I had 2 PhDs in biblical studies or something.
Right.
They would never allow, because that's not what they allow. They've already decided that's wrong. They don't care about evidence that would show that. And this, I sound very cynical. I get it, but this is the pushback I get from people. Anytime I bring this kind of stuff up, well, academia has already decided that's wrong. What about this evidence? Well, they've already decided it's wrong, so shut up. No, I won't.
I think there's a really interesting kind of inverse that can happen too, where people in your line of work can kind of bridge the gap between what's going on at the scholarly level and bringing it to the popular level. I think a lot of what we do with our podcast is doing that as well. Mm-hmm. I think a good example of that I ran across recently was when I was reading Peter Leithart's Defending Constantine. The whole reason why he wrote that book is that the scholarly consensus had changed on Constantine in a positive direction for Constantine, but there had been so much kind of like bad press over the years that the popular consensus hadn't shifted, and the general kind of average conception of who Constantine was living in the past. And so he wrote that book to help do that shift. Now that book is still pretty thick, and it's no YouTube short. And so I think that the work that you're doing and the others are doing in your field can help bridge some of those gaps in a really impactful way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I took that book and a couple other ones, and I made a video called "The Top 10 Myths About Constantine" and put it out there. So
there you go.
What I do is I take a lot of that kind of scholarly work and make it into digestible videos for people.
That's awesome. Yeah. Mike, we have a segment that we like to do with all of our guests called 10 Words or Less, where we're going to ask you a question that might make you want to say more than 10 words, but you have to limit your response to 10 words. Since we appreciate you so much, I'm going to extend it to 15 words or less, and we'll use this to kind of close us out since we're running out of time. So I've got 3 questions for you. You've got 15 words to answer them. Taylor, you're the math whiz, so you get to count.
Dude, what?
So Mike, first question. How will you respond to someone who thinks that fake $100 gospel tracts is a valuable way to do apologetics?
Probably that. I just stare. I'm like, are you for real? You think that's going to work?
We're at 0 words.
Real quick. How is that going to make disciples?
That's good. That was good. Yeah,
dude, he did it in half, less than half of his allotted.
Yeah, this is why he's a professional, man. Like he knows. This man knows what he's doing. Okay, great answer. Next one. You're talking to an atheist who says, "Well, how can God be all powerful if he can't make a 2-sided triangle?"
God can do anything that's logically possible. That's not logically possible.
All right.
He got 11.
Yeah. Man, I'll just say you're crushing this so more than our average guests. They do awful. And if you want to know, look at when Taylor did it one time.
Well, that's because that's my job, is to make things concise and put it out there for people.
You're crushing it. All right. Well, here's the last one. I'm really excited about this one. Was Ray Comfort onto something with the whole banana argument?
Haha, no, he doesn't understand cultivation.
He even used haha. That was great.
Oh man, that was awesome.
Wow.
Thank you. Okay. Shoot. Well, dude, thank you so much for coming on. Seriously. This was a excellent conversation. We super appreciate it. Listeners, thank you guys so much for tagging along. Again, if you want to look for anything by Mike and his team, it's Inspiring Philosophy on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, wherever you can follow them. Check out their website if you're interested in booking Mike for anything. Be sure to follow us on our socials. And thanks for listening, you guys.
Bye-bye.
God bless you.